So let me give you some tips on acing that animal control interview. So first off, we know you're nervous. It's okay to be nervous. You really want the job and you have to impress the panel that's in front of you. So we know you're nervous. It's okay. Second, when you're in the interview part, make sure that you're really trying to hear the question, okay? Make sure that you're aware of what's said. If you need them to repeat it, just ask them to repeat it. It's not a big deal. So some of the questions that could be asked, it could be some of the software you know. You know, we use a lot of like Microsoft Office, Excel, you know, for keeping information, or, you know, if you've done this before and there's certain programs or softwares that some of the shelters use, you know, do Photoshop and, you know, edit videos, though, you know, those type of softwares. Again, you never know what little pieces of knowledge that you give or software that you know might, you know, trigger something in one of the interviewers' heads that they might be like, oh, that's interesting that you do this, this, or that. So now, one of the biggest tips I can give you is going forward is that animal control is a public safety. While we get into the job because we love the animals and, you know, we want to help them, especially when they're sick or injured, the biggest thing that our group does as animal control officers is we are public safety. That's our main thing. So kind of keep that in mind when you go forward, is that's what you're interviewing for, is a public safety job. Again, we're basically like a police officer and an ambulance for the animal control world. So kind of keep that in mind. So what are the type of questions that you can be asked in an interview like that? There's going to be, basically it depends on the agency, but there will be questions about your knowledge base, whether that's going to be direct knowledge on your history, on what you've done, your job history, what you did there. There's going to be questions about procedures, like how would you handle this call or that call. Whatever questions you're asked, is make sure you elaborate on those questions, because that's your chance to kind of give us more and more and more with whatever question we asked you. Now, I have had people that like knock out an entire interview in like less than 20 minutes because they literally answered the question for fact and that was it, without elaborating on anything else. And, you know, those people didn't stick out at all. The people that sat there and elaborated more and more and more, again, sticking on topic on the question, those showed their ability to, you know, kind of flex their knowledge base. So remember to elaborate on all the questions as best you can, but again, stay on target. Questions like, you know, tell us about your job experience working with animals or animal control, or, you know, and in this case, you know, put in any volunteer work. I mean, this is your time to brag about yourself. Some people don't like doing it, but we have to hear everything. Only got those 30 minutes to show why you're better than everybody else that's going to be sitting in here. One job application that we put out for had over 100 applicants that came in there. So you really need to stick out. What is your experience? What is your knowledge base, you know, that makes you a good animal control officer? Done so many years with this agency, and while I was this agency, I worked as you know, as a kennel attendant, and then I worked my way up to officer, and then I was, you know, like their supervisor or their lead person. You know, what did you do? What did I do there at? This is where the elaboration comes in. When you're a kennel attendant, then say everything that you did as a kennel attendant. Well, you know, I went ahead and I cleaned the kennels, disinfect. I went ahead and checked the animals if they were sick. You know, I would take them to the medical staff. I would, you know, do the paperwork for them. You know, I would administer medication for them, you know, when needed. What if they put you in charge for that time frame? Don't forget that stuff. I was in charge of the kennels for a time being. We were down as supervisor, so then I had to help do evaluations and do the scheduling for that time frame. Then I moved up to officer. Okay, again, elaborate. While I was an officer there, you know, I did the field work. I covered how many cities. You know, what was your shift? Did you do the night shift? You know, that shows a lot, because again, the night shifts, you know, sometimes can be a little bit rougher. You know, when you're in the night shift, did you do anything else besides that? Well, yeah, I was in charge of, you know, helping to close up for the night, or, you know, counting out the the front office clerks, because I was the only one there. All those little things, and see, that was just one agency for me, and we're writing all that stuff down. So if you just say, oh yeah, I worked for so-and-so agency, and I worked as an animal control officer there, for the last like 5 years, and then you shut up, and then you're like, and then I worked for agency 2, you just miss all that gold right there to show us what you can offer us, because you never know what that scenario, what that agency is dealing with. They might have problems in the kennels, they might have this, they might have someone that, the agency's weakness is like kenneling or shelter wise, but they have strength in officers. Those little things like that are really important to share, because a lot of the times before we do our interviews, we are talking with the other people on there, and we're asking, what are you guys looking for? Especially if it's an agency I don't work for. I've sat in on different cities and counties that I never worked for. They just needed people with the knowledge base to sit in the interviews, so that they're helping and picking the proper people. But we'll ask, like, what are you guys looking for? And trust me, those staff members knows exactly what that agency's lacking and that they need. Any certifications you got, any classes or training, all that stuff is important. The next one is too, if you have the knowledge base, it is a scenario questions, like what would you do in these situations? And again, elaborate as much as you can on them, and again, keeping the mindset that we are more of a law enforcement agency, and a public safety group more than anything else. Okay, so you might also have behavior questions on animals, so kind of brush up, and also kind of know most of the animals that you've dealt with. You might have livestock in this area that you didn't have before. You have livestock experience. Sometimes there's a lot of questions on like challenges that you've had or downfalls. So start thinking and writing down different challenging times you've had with work, coworkers, supervisors, anything positive, and then anything negative. Also challenging calls that you've been on, whether that was, issues with the animals themselves, with the people themselves, and how you resolved it. We're looking for ways that you know how to do conflict resolution. We don't need someone that's just a hothead and just making things worse and telling people like, I'm the law and you better listen to me. Like, we need people that can diffuse situations. Start building up your stories of tough times you've had with coworkers, supervisors, tough times you've had on calls. Have some wins in mind, something that you went above and beyond for and the outcome was great, or above and beyond for and the outcome wasn't great, kind of like what you learned from it. I gotta say, the last part is the biggest part, which is most people will ask the question like, do you have anything else to add? And add it in there. I've had plenty of people just go like, no, like nothing to add, and you don't know how many times that just kind of just annoys me, because it's like, man, you had your chance to really sell it. Maybe we were kind of on the fence, and this was your chance to kind of like toss in that last little bit of gold and make us give you points to move you on to the next round, and and you blew it. So kind of have some things in mind that you want to add on there afterwards. Sometimes they'll ask if you have any questions. I'm going to tell you now, probably not the best thing to ask is pay or scheduling. Those type of questions afterwards, they're stuff that you should know. Especially most agencies post how much the pay is, the range of it, and also the schedules. Like, again, it's all open schedules, so most agencies it's going to say 24/7 operation. So you got to keep that in mind. If that's not something you're wanting to do, then if that agency says that is 24/7 operations, you can be working midnight. And especially if you're the newbie, you might be working midnight more than anybody else. So just kind of keep that in mind. For now, we'll kind of just leave it there. If you have any other questions regarding this process, just, again, just comment below and just reach out to me, or even DM me if you have any other, questions. I'm more than willing to help you guys out. I know this field can be, pretty fun, and if it is something that you're really wanting to get into, I mean, I don't blame you. I've been doing this for a very long time now, and I still have fun doing it, and it can lead to a really good career path. And I know there's not a lot out there on how to kind of get these jobs, so again, I'll be your resource and someone you can reach out to and ask this question. I respond pretty fast to most of the questions, so again, feel free to reach out. And until next time, thanks for watching this video, and good luck on your interview, and I wish you the best.